INFJ. If you have ever wondered why your silence seems to echo louder than the words of those around you, if you have ever noticed how people cannot help but attach meaning, intention, and even accusation to the moments when you pull back into yourself, then you are not alone, because this is a deeply misunderstood part of your nature, one that often leads to conflict, projection, and alienation, even though silence, for you, is not a weapon but a refuge, not rejection but reflection, not superiority but survival, and yet the world seems to twist it into something it was never meant to be. And in this video, we are going to unravel why people keep projecting meaning onto your silence, why they fear it, why they resent it, why they sometimes hate you for it, and most importantly, how you, as an INFJ, can reclaim your silence as sacred rather than let it be misunderstood as sinister, because this misunderstanding has probably cost you friendships, relationships, and countless moments of peace. So settle in with me, INFJ, because this is going to be a deep dive into your inner world, the unseen mechanisms of human psychology, and the brutal truths about how others perceive your energy, your presence, and yes, even your absence. The weight of your silence. To most people, silence is simply the absence of words, an empty space to be filled with chatter, noise, or distraction. But to you, INFJ, silence is alive, it is full, it is meaningful, it is restorative, it is the soil in which your thoughts, feelings, and visions grow, and it is the language through which you communicate more than words ever could. And yet, because silence in this noisy world is so rare, when you practice it, others do not see it as neutral, they see it as loaded, they feel its weight pressing into them, forcing them to notice what is usually hidden beneath the surface, and instead of understanding that your silence is simply your natural state, they start assigning meaning to it, projecting onto you their insecurities, their guilt, their doubts, their fears, and suddenly, your stillness becomes a mirror reflecting back to them all the things they do not want to face. This is why your silence feels louder than other people's words, INFJ, because you are not withdrawing into nothingness. You are radiating an energy of depth, of presence, of contemplation, and that unsettles those who thrive on constant distraction. Silence as a mirror. When you go quiet, INFJ, people start to wonder, are they judging me? Did I say something wrong? Are they angry with me? Do they think they're better than me? And none of these assumptions are true, but this is the power of projection. Your silence becomes a canvas on which others paint the stories of their own insecurity, because when someone is used to filling every gap with noise, your refusal to do the same feels like confrontation. It is not that you meant to confront them, but your very nature exposes what they try to hide, and they cannot tell the difference between your self-preservation and their self-exposure. So they assign blame to you, resenting you for the discomfort they feel in their own skin. And while you may be silently sorting through your thoughts, protecting your energy, or simply recharging your introverted soul, they interpret it as punishment, abandonment, or even superiority, because to them, silence is never neutral, it is always a statement. The culture of noise and why you don't fit. We live in a culture that fears silence, a culture that equates talking with connection, noise with life, chatter with belonging, and because of this, the moment you stop participating in the endless noise, you are viewed as a problem, as an outsider, as someone withholding something, even though you are simply being yourself. Think about it. In workplaces, people who talk the most are often seen as leaders. In social groups, those who dominate conversations are assumed to be more likable, and in relationships, silence is interpreted as distance, and in all these spaces, INFJ, you do not fit the mold, because your wisdom is born in silence, your comfort is rooted in reflection, and your love is expressed in ways that often transcend words, and the world does not know how to process that. So instead of honoring your silence as a strength, they pathologize it, project onto it, and create stories that turn you into the villain, because in a world addicted to noise, the quiet ones are always misjudged. Silence and the fear of being exposed. Another brutal truth is that your silence makes people feel exposed, because when you listen without rushing to fill the air, when you sit quietly with someone, They start to hear their own words echo louder. They start to notice inconsistencies in what they are saying. They start to feel the hollowness of their performance, and they assume that you see it too. And you often do, INFJ, though you rarely say it out loud. This is why people accuse you of judging them when you have said nothing at all, because your silence creates a vacuum where their own conscience becomes louder, and rather than sit with that discomfort, they project it onto you, telling themselves that you are the one making them feel inadequate, when in reality, it is their own reflection haunting them. Your silence does not create their guilt, INFJ, it only reveals it. The burden of being misunderstood. And here lies the tragedy of the INFJ experience. You pull back into silence to protect yourself, to recharge, to stay true to who you are, but instead of being respected for it, you are misunderstood, mischaracterized, and even demonized, as if your silence were an attack rather than an act of love for yourself. How many times have you been told you are too quiet, too mysterious, too distant, or accused of giving the silent treatment, when you were simply trying not to say something hurtful? How many times has someone insisted you speak up when you had nothing to add, or pressured you to explain your silence when the explanation was simply, "This is who I am"? The burden of being an INFJ is that your silence is never allowed to just be. It must always be explained, justified, defended, and in that process, you often feel invisible, unseen for who you truly are, because the world demands you conform to its noise. Silence as power, and why it threatens others. INFJ, whether you realize it or not, your silence carries power, because in a world where everyone is scrambling to be heard, the one who can remain silent, composed, and observant becomes the one who sees the most, knows the most, and holds the most influence, and people sense this even if they cannot articulate it. They fear your silence because it cannot be controlled, it cannot be manipulated, it cannot be predicted, and in that fear, they project meaning onto it, calling you cold, aloof, or intimidating, when in truth, your silence is your strength. They do not understand that you are not withdrawing because you do not care, but because you care too deeply, because you must process before you speak, because your words are chosen with intention, and because silence, for you, is not emptiness but clarity. And those who thrive on noise, who rely on constant chatter to distract themselves, find your clarity threatening, because it exposes the emptiness of their noise. Relationships and the silent wounds. Nowhere is the projection onto your silence more painful than in relationships, because partners, friends, and even family often misinterpret your quiet moments as disinterest, rejection, or lack of love, when in fact, silence is one of the deepest ways you connect, by simply being present, by listening fully, by holding space without needing to dominate it. But because most people have been conditioned to believe that love must be loud, constant, and verbal, they cannot see your silence as love, they can only see it as distance, and they demand you prove your care in ways that feel unnatural to you, forcing you into an endless cycle of explaining yourself, performing for them, and abandoning your own needs in the process. This is why so many INFJs feel unseen even in relationships, because their silence, which is meant as a gift, is misread as neglect, and their depth, which is meant as connection, is misread as detachment. The sacredness of INFJ silence. But here is the truth you must reclaim, INFJ. Your silence is not a curse, it is a gift, it is sacred, it is your sanctuary, it is where you commune with yourself, with your intuition, with your spirituality, with your vision of the world, and no matter how much people misunderstand it, you must not abandon it, because to abandon your silence is to abandon your soul. Yes, people will project meaning onto it. Yes, they will resent it, hate it, misinterpret it. But their projections are not your responsibility, their discomfort is not your burden, and their noise is not your truth. Your silence belongs to you, and in a world that does not understand it, the greatest act of self-love you can practice is to protect it fiercely, unapologetically, and without shame. So, INFJ, Why do people keep projecting meaning onto your silence? Because your silence is not empty. It is full of presence, it is full of depth, it is full of truths they are not ready to face, and when people are confronted with themselves, they will always project that discomfort onto the one who exposed it. But let me remind you, you are not here to carry their projections, you are not here to explain your silence endlessly, and you are not here to make noise just to make others comfortable. You are here to live authentically, to honor your inner world, and to stand firmly in your truth, even when that truth is expressed in nothing more than your quiet, powerful presence. Because in the end, INFJ, your silence speaks volumes, not about rejection, not about superiority, not about distance, but about your depth, your wisdom, your power, and your sacred connection to yourself. And the right people will not fear it, they will not project onto it, they will embrace it, they will honor it, and they will sit with you in it, knowing that sometimes the most profound conversations happen without a single word.